On March 15, 1781, a British army won the field at Guilford Courthouse. Its soldiers drove Nathanael Greene's army from the ground and captured American artillery. By the ordinary arithmetic of battle, Cornwallis had done exactly what he came to do. But the field was not the campaign, and the campaign was already turning against him. Greene commanded roughly 4,400 American troops, mixing militia, Continentals, cavalry, and artillery. Cornwallis brought a smaller force, about 2,000 to 2,400 men, depending on the accounting used. The British were outnumbered, yet they possessed the advantage that mattered most in a close fight: cohesion. They were veteran regiments trained to keep moving after the first line of resistance broke. By 1780, British commanders had shifted their main effort from the stalemated north to the southern colonies. Georgia and South Carolina had fallen under British control, and Loyalist support seemed within reach. Cornwallis believed a northward drive could cut the rebellion apart by isolating the southern colonies. The strategy depended on turning battlefield victories into stable control of roads, farms, and towns. The British advance had already been shaped by two sharp reversals in the backcountry. At Kings Mountain, Loyalist forces were destroyed by frontier riflemen in October 1780. At Cowpens, Daniel Morgan used disciplined withdrawal and a layered defense to break Banastre Tarleton's force. Greene would carry that lesson into a larger battlefield, with more space and far higher stakes. When Greene took command of the Southern Department, he inherited an army too weak to stand in one place. His first task was not to destroy Cornwallis, but to keep an army alive long enough to become dangerous. He needed recruits, food, information, and time, while denying the British a clean, decisive engagement. That was not passive defense. It was a campaign built around choosing what the enemy could not reach. Greene divided his small force instead of offering Cornwallis a single target. The main body moved toward Cheraw, while Morgan took a smaller force west to threaten the British flank. To Cornwallis, the split created opportunities to destroy the Americans in detail. To Greene, it created several problems for the British to solve at once. Morgan defeated Tarleton at Cowpens on January 17, 1781, before Cornwallis could bring the Americans to battle. The victory did not end the campaign, it made the British pursuit more urgent. Cornwallis now needed to catch Morgan, prevent Greene from reinforcing him, and restore the initiative. The result was a chase in which every mile mattered more than the last battlefield result. Greene moved to reunite his forces near the river crossings and draw Cornwallis away from his base. The Catawba and Yadkin became more than geography, they became timing mechanisms. A rise in water could delay an army, separate its baggage, or turn a road into a dead end. The campaign was beginning to look less like a march and more like a race against weather. The Dan River was too deep to cross easily except near its upper reaches.
Greene's forces were already crossing to safety.
Cornwallis tried to place his army between Greene and the available fords. Greene had prepared boats on the southern bank, turning a river barrier into an escape route. The British reached the river only to find that the decisive resource was already on the other side. For 2 more weeks, Greene moved watched and waited for the last reinforcements to arrive. Cornwallis wanted a general action, but Greene would not spend his army before it was ready. By March 14, the balance had changed enough for Greene to accept the fight near Guilford Courthouse. He would give Cornwallis the battle he wanted, but not the kind of victory Cornwallis needed. Greene chose a position where woods and fields would break the rhythm of a British advance. The road approached from the west, crossed a creek, and climbed through fields toward the courthouse. The American lines would face west, with distance between them and cover in the woods. The arrangement was simple to describe and difficult to survive. Fire, fall back, reform, repeat. The plan borrowed from the logic of cowpens. The first line would absorb the shock, not win alone. The second line would force the British to spend more strength in broken terrain.
We break Cornwallis here.
The third line held the best American regulars. The troops Greene could not afford to lose.
Maintain the line.
This was not a single wall. It was a sequence of decisions imposed on the attacker.
Discipline, gentlemen, discipline.
The first line consisted mainly of North Carolina militia, supported on the flanks by experienced troops. Many of the militiamen were untested, and Greene knew exactly what that meant. He did not ask them to stand forever. He asked them to fire, delay, and yield the ground in sequence. Their position behind rail fences gave them a moment of protection and a clear field of fire. 400 yards behind the first line, Virginia militia waited in the woods. They were still militia, but their officers and some of their soldiers had campaign experience. The forest would remove the clean parade ground advantage of a British bayonet attack. Every tree, gully, and turn in the road could separate one British unit from another. The third line was Greene's most dependable formation, Continentals from Maryland and Virginia. These troops had officers who understood how to hold ground under pressure. They formed on a low hill near the courthouse, where the fight could become a real test of discipline. If the British reached them, the battle would finally meet its hardest question. Cornwallis's force was smaller, but it contained some of the best British troops in America. Guards, Highlanders, the 23rd and 33rd Regiments, Hessian troops, cavalry, and artillery formed the corps. Their strength was not simply courage. It was the ability to keep a formation alive while it was being hit. Cornwallis needed that discipline to carry his army through the three-line defense. The British could not see the full American position from the road.
We must proceed with caution.
Thick woods concealed the depth of the defense and made the flanks hard to read. Cornwallis had to attack before Greene slipped away, while knowing that a stalled attack would consume time and supplies. The battle would begin as a test of movement, not just a contest of firepower. Greene spent the night worried that rain might make the American muskets useless. Instead, March 15 opened cold and clear, giving both armies a day to fight. The British began moving from Deep River after dawn, with Cornwallis determined to force the issue. By early afternoon, the last distance between pursuit and battle had disappeared. The first clash came west of the main position near the Quaker settlement of New Garden. Henry Lee's advance guard met the British and then withdrew without deciding the action. It was a small fight, but it warned Greene that Cornwallis was close and moving with purpose. The Red Column continued along New Garden Road toward the courthouse.
Retreat through the trees!
As the British reached the creek, American artillery opened from the first line. The shots were meant to delay the crossing and disrupt the British formation, not destroy it. British guns answered from the road, but the woods limited the effect of both sides' artillery. The real weapon was waiting behind the rail fence. When the British came within roughly 150 yards, the North Carolinians fired. The volley tore gaps in the advancing line and forced the veterans to absorb the shock without stopping. For a moment, the defense in depth had done exactly what Greene intended. Two warships were locked together. The British closed the distance anyway, because their discipline was built for this moment. The British waited until musket range before returning fire in the open fields. Then they surged forward with bayonets leveled, turning the first line's pause into a decision point. The North Carolinians had been told that 2 volleys could be enough before falling back. The plan allowed withdrawal, but plans cannot control the panic of men under a charging line. Some North Carolinians fired again, but many broke and fled into the woods.
Retreat in order! Officers, maintain the line here!
Some threw away their weapons, leaving the first line before the British could fully destroy it. Greene had lost the ground sooner than he wanted, but the British had still paid for the advance. The second line now had to receive an attack that had already been disordered by success. On the American left, Lee's Legion and Campbell's riflemen did not simply run. They withdrew southeast through the woods while drawing British units away from the central attack. That separate fight blurred the edges of Cornwallis's formation and consumed time. The main battle was already becoming several battles at once. The British centre crossed the abandoned first line and entered the woodland toward the Virginians. In open country, disciplined lines could advance together. In the woods, files became fragments. Bayonets were harder to use, visibility collapsed, and units had to fight by sound and instinct. The terrain did not stop the British, but it made every victory less organized. The Virginia militia met the British about 400 yards behind the first line. They held longer and fought with more cohesion than the North Carolinians had managed. Their fire slowed the British advance and forced the attackers to work through the woods instead of around them. The second line did not win the battle, but it made the third line more valuable. Beyond the second line, the British reached the open ground before Greene's Continentals. The veteran American units waited in a large formation near the courthouse hill. For the first time that afternoon, both sides faced troops whose discipline could match the others. The battle had moved from delay into a direct contest for the last line. The 33rd Regiment reached the Continental line and was driven back by steady American fire. The British Guards pressed elsewhere, trying to turn the American right and open the line from the side. The American position had not been untouched, but it had not been broken. Cornwallis now needed a stronger blow before Greene could disengage. William Washington led American dragoons against the British Guards at the third line. The charge struck a formation already disrupted by the close fight with Maryland infantry. For a moment, the British centre was in danger of losing the ground it had paid to reach. The American counterattack did not erase the earlier losses, but it changed the battle's momentum. Cornwallis ordered artillery to fire grapeshot into the contested mass. The decision checked the American charge, but it also risked striking his own troops. The guns broke the American counterattack and gave the British space to reform. It was a tactical rescue that revealed how close the British Army had come to losing control. Greene could order one more stand and risk the destruction of his most reliable troops. Or he could leave the field while the Continentals remained coherent and able to fight another day. He chose withdrawal, giving Cornwallis the ground and preserving the army that could retake the South. The decision looked like defeat because it was measured against the map, not against the future. By the end of the action, Cornwallis held Guilford Courthouse. The British had broken 3 American lines, captured artillery, and forced Greene away. No honest account can remove that tactical result. The question is what the victory allowed Cornwallis to do next. Cornwallis reported 93 British dead, 413 wounded, and 26 missing. That is roughly 532 casualties from a force of about 2,000 to 2,400 men. American figures vary, especially because many militia were counted as missing after dispersing. The consistent conclusion is that the British loss was heavy and the American army survived it. Cornwallis reported a signal victory, but his own dispatch also described the limits of the result. His troops were exhausted, his wounded were spread across the countryside, and provisions were scarce. He could not follow Greene into the backcountry the next day. The British had won contact and lost the ability to exploit it. On March 18, Cornwallis began moving toward Wilmington on the North Carolina coast. The army needed rest, refitting, food, clothing, ammunition, and a secure line to its base. Greene shadowed the movement for part of the way, but Cornwallis avoided another general action. The retreat was not a rout. It was the movement of a victorious army that could no longer remain forward. The most revealing fact after Guilford was not who held the ground, but who could move next. Cornwallis could not pursue Greene, and Greene was free to choose the next theatre. The British victory had consumed the margin that made an offensive possible. A battle that ended with the Americans retreating had left the British retreating first. Cornwallis had won the largest battle of the Southern campaign, but he had not secured North Carolina.
Battle of Guilford Courthouse.
A battlefield could be occupied for a day. The countryside still required garrisons, food, and loyalist support. His losses made every scattered post more vulnerable. The Southern strategy had reached its limit at the moment of its most visible victory. After following Cornwallis for a short distance, Greene turned south instead of chasing him to the coast. That choice released the American army against the British positions in South Carolina and Georgia. Greene did not need to win every battle if each battle forced the British to abandon another post.
Before moving into Virginia.
The campaign now measured success by control of the country, not possession of one field. Cornwallis remained at Wilmington for a time, then moved north toward Virginia.
North through Eben, eventually entering Virginia.
He believed operations in Virginia could support the larger southern effort. Instead, the move separated him from the Carolina posts. Greene was now attacking. Guilford had not caused Yorktown by itself, but it helped create the strategic conditions for it. In Virginia, Cornwallis eventually concentrated at Yorktown near the Chesapeake Bay. There, an army shaped by the Southern Campaign faced a different problem: isolation by land and sea. The French naval victory in the Chesapeake and the Allied siege made escape impossible. Guilford was not Yorktown, but it belonged to the chain of decisions that led there. Cornwallis did not lose Guilford Courthouse in the tactical sense. He lost irreplaceable soldiers, time, freedom of movement, and the ability to turn the victory into control. Greene lost the ground and some artillery, but kept the army that could keep reopening the war. The exchange favored the commander, who could afford to lose a field and continue the campaign.
Move those wagons, lads!
The phrase Pyrrhic victory is useful here only if it is tied to the campaign's actual costs. Cornwallis won a battlefield, yet the victory forced him toward a base instead of deeper into North Carolina. Greene could trade space for time because his army remained a living instrument.
Colonel, the supply wagons are falling behind again.
The British could not trade soldiers for territory forever, especially in a country they could not hold. Guilford Courthouse is often remembered as the battle Britain won and the campaign it could not exploit. That description works because it preserves both truths. The Americans were driven away and the British were exhausted. Greene's method was not magic, and his militia did not perform perfectly. Its power came from adapting the next decision to whatever the previous fight had left behind. If victory means holding the field, Cornwallis won Guilford Courthouse. If victory means forcing the enemy to abandon his objective, the answer is more complicated. Greene left the field, but Cornwallis left the campaign's center of gravity.
Towards Guilford Courthouse. Meanwhile,
the battle ended in the woods of North Carolina. Its consequences reached the road to Yorktown. Greene's army did not need to look victorious when it marched away. It needed to remain organized, supplied enough to move, and willing to fight again. That was the resource Cornwallis had failed to destroy at Guilford Courthouse.
Along the Blue Route, drawing Cornwallis further inland.
The field belonged to Britain. The next decision belonged to Greene. Cornwallis could claim the result, and he did. But the report of victory could not replace bread, shoes, ammunition, or fresh soldiers. 7 months later, he surrendered at Yorktown after the strategic world around him had closed. Guilford was not the surrender, but it was one of the battles that made the surrender possible. At Guilford Courthouse, Nathanael Greene lost the field without losing the war in the South. Cornwallis won the battle, without winning the campaign he had entered North Carolina to complete. The difference was not a slogan. It was visible in the roads, supplies, casualties, and decisions that followed. Sometimes the army that retreats is the army that still owns the future.